For the final time this season, it's Monday night, the 3rd of April. It's 8:45pm, and this is the Cat's Whiskers podcast live. Hello and welcome to the last edition of the Monday Night Review TCW podcast this season. My name is Jono Bullard, and as if you haven't already guessed, we will be looking back at the highs and the lows and more lows of the playoff quarter-final weekend. I'm delighted to say that joining me to go through the heartache once again are Antoine Marie-Jeanne.
Hello!
Adam Reddish.
Hello!
And it's a welcome back to Tina Taylor.
Hiya.
Well, everyone, we have to go through it, and we will start on Saturday night. Happier times. With the Panthers taking on the Sheffield Steelers for the 13th time this season in the first leg of the playoff quarter-finals. The game was at the NIC, and the Panthers skated away with a 5-2 victory. Alex Nikiforuk opening the scoring at 4:55 with Robert Farmer on the power play at 8:54, doubling the lead. Brad Moran with another power play goal at 11:04 made it 3-0, and just 48 seconds later, after an incredible passage of play, Brian McGrattan made it 4-0. That was the end of the scoring for the first period. In the second period, Sheffield got one back on the board, also on the power play from Levi Nelson. Jeff Walker, with another power play goal at 14:45 of the third period, made it 4-2 before Chris Lawrence, with what we thought at the time would be an incredibly huge goal, 10 seconds from the end, made it 5-2. So, we're going to just talk about this game as it was. We're not going to go on to what happened on Sunday. We will go on to that a little later. But, Adam, we'll start with you. What a start. What a start.
Yeah, it was incredible, wasn't it? I think we were all in dreamland at the end of the first period. I didn't expect that from Panthers. Panthers totally surprised me the way they came out of the blocks and started the game. You know, it was the intensity that we've all, as fans, been wanting to see more of all season. And whilst it was absolutely great to see, you know, there was a little bit of regret there. That it was like, well, players are obviously capable of this, you know, when they put their mind to it. And, obviously they'd engaged into playoff mode. And, there were, checks all over the place. We were forechecking hard. We were closing pucks down, weren't giving Steelers any time on the puck at all. It was absolutely fantastic hockey. Possibly one of the best 20 minutes of the season, if not the best. But yeah, then after that, it seemed like we didn't think the job was done, because obviously, there's a second leg to follow. But I thought that if we'd kept up that intensity for the rest of the game, we could have really put the game to bed on Saturday, and given Sheffield an absolutely impossible mountain to climb the following night. But obviously, Sheffield kind of came back into it and kept the scoring gap at 3.
Yeah, Tina, after that start, we thought, right, are we going to keep this up the whole game? And unfortunately, it just didn't happen that way.
No, it didn't. The start that we had was a surprise in itself, to be honest. I think we were all dreading it. We just, but I think we all walked into the NIC just sort of, oh God, this is, going to be, sort of fairly routine Sheffield win, and we really surprised them. So it was the first period. I think just everybody was surprised. I don't think there was a single person who would have seen that coming, and it was just a shame we couldn't build on that. It's just a shame we actually let them back into the game, because as it turns out, the 3-goal lead wasn't enough. But what a start! But even before we got to Sunday, you could sort of see that the the Panthers weren't able to sustain it. So it was, but you know, it was not. It was nice to have something to cheer for. It was, I walked into the game and I was just like, I'm only here because it's on the season ticket. But for Brian McGrattan alone, I think I would have been disappointed to have missed that. To be perfectly honest.
And the shots on goal says it all. First period, 6 on Weekman, 13 on Mustakovs, and then Panthers only had 8 more shots over the second and third periods. Just 3 in the second, 5 in the third, with Sheffield having 16 and 13 in those periods. We just didn't get enough rubber on net after that incredible first period.
No, we did what we did a couple of months ago when we had exactly the same first period, when we absolutely dominated them and maybe could have had a couple more than what we got, barring a couple of saves from Moose. And then we just sat back and we thought 4-0 would be enough. But you know full well exactly what was going to happen. You knew Sheffield were going to come out and try to cut, get 1 or 2 goals back, make it as tight as possible going into the second leg on Sunday. So it was just disappointing. Everything we did well in the first period, we just turned it around completely in the second and third and just sat back. And it was only till sort of the last couple of minutes, when it's almost like we need another goal here, lads, that we seemed to turn it up again.
Yeah. We'll look at some of the incidents from the game, and let's start off with probably one of the best passages of play I've ever seen. 60 seconds of pure magic. And okay, it meant nothing in the end, but let's live on it while we can. And that was, of course, the 4th goal from Brian McGrattan. Started by Zach Fitzgerald, trying to get McGrattan to drop the gloves for the first time this season. And McGrattan just basically laughing at him, drawing the penalty, going straight up the ice and putting the puck in the net. Adam, I'll start with you. Just a fantastic passage of play.
It was absolute magic. The crowd was already buzzing because we'd had an amazing start. And obviously Fitzgerald was sent out to try and do something, instigate a fight, show his team that they needed to, change the course of the game, because obviously it was going massively in Panthers' direction. And it was just a quality minute of hockey. It had all elements. It had the comedy side of it, and then quickly it went from comedy to absolute euphoria when McGrattan kind of made a bit of a mug of Moose and just skated around at him and put the puck into the empty net. So that 60 seconds just encapsulated everything that was good about ice hockey in my view. And okay, as you said, ultimately, it kind of meant nothing, but those that were there that saw it of a Panthers persuasion, we'll never forget that, because it was drama at its finest.
It
most certainly was. Tina, your thoughts?
Oh yeah, step forward, Brian McGrattan. If he'd have done that 2 weeks ago, he'd have surely won most entertaining player. Nicky Forrett wouldn't have got the look in, but it was You could see that, finally, Fitzgerald is becoming the willing combatant, and tries to engage with McGrattan, and he's now claiming people shake their gloves and they don't want to fight. And I mean, to be perfectly honest, you do see McGrattan shake his gloves on the video, and then Fitzgerald just sort of stands there. He doesn't make any motion, like he's going to drop the gloves. So it leaves me wondering a little bit whether or not he was just trying to draw a penalty on McGrattan instead, sort of get him an instigator or something along those lines. And McGrattan just didn't bite. It would have been good to have seen the fight happen. I think Sheffield definitely needed it at that point, but the momentum was with us, and McGrattan didn't have to. He was at the point where he was like, why should I? I will, but why should I? why should I fight you? And then for him to go up the ice and actually be the one to put the puck in the net, follow, on the same shift, couldn't have been written any better, really. It was poetry. I loved it.
And I think you enjoyed that one.
Very much so. It was probably, the euphoria of that period anyway, and then when McGrattan first of all makes a mug out of Fitzgerald, and at no point does Fitzgerald go to fight him. I think one of the pictures that they've got when Fitzgerald's keeping him at arm length and McGrattan's just laughing. He's completely peeing himself laughing. And then Fitzgerald's like whinging at him, and McGrattan just waves his glove at him, and then 10 seconds later the puck's in the back of the net. Don't get me wrong, I was jumping around like an absolute loony at that point. Poor Chewy next to me got the full brunt of it. It was brilliant. It was fantastic. And it capped off what had been one of the best periods of hockey we've seen this season.
Yeah, indeed, and yeah, it was. We was in a euphoric state, and sadly, as events have shown over the weekend, that was as good as it got. And for the life of me, what I can't understand is why we didn't continue with that intensity into the second and the third period. Now, one thing that I did notice over both games is the fitness levels. Sheffield looked fitter than us. They looked much fitter than us, in fact. And, we'll come on to Sunday's game, but the way that in that final goal that Macmillan was completely blown away. Is that it? Was it a fitness thing? Tina, why do you think that the intensity wasn't kept up?
That sort of level of intensity, we haven't seen it from the Panthers this season. We have, but in fleeting bursts. But it's not something that we've been treated to on a regular basis. So, yeah, I don't know if it's fitness as such, but maybe the sort of general team intensity, just because it's been at such a level. When they've had to up the level, that's why they can't sustain it. It should be sustainable. If we think back to, we think back to the league winning season, that kind of intensity, we saw it regularly, or it felt like we saw it regularly. We sound like a broken record, but we had. It was well known and well noted that Mark Coles was doing the strength and conditioning that year, and the team just had that extra gear. And I think a lot of people said it at the time that the third periods were where we won games because we just had it in the tank. If teams were coming at us, we could let them come at us, burn themselves out, and then just kill it off in the third period. And we haven't got that. We just don't have it. It's so yeah. Fitness, yeah, quite possibly plays a part in it. But I think unfortunately there's been a level of comfort within the Panthers team, and so keeping up that level of intensity that they came out with in the first period probably isn't sustainable for this team.
Well, to be fair, sorry to jump in now. To be fair, if the players didn't spend most of the midweek on the booze and on the fags, then you might see better fitness levels. We've seen players getting absolutely smashed the night before a game. That's no way to run any sports club. It's no wonder that we've been so poor at times this season, or for the majority of the domestic season, when you've got that sort of indiscipline within the ranks.
Another player I want to bring up is Irving Mustakovs. Statistically the best netminder in the league. My views on him are well known. I don't think he's that great. And I think he showed that on Saturday, because I don't think he was anywhere for any of those 4 goals. Adam?
He wasn't, was he? The video footage backs that up. my views are fairly similar to yours on Mustakos, Jono. I don't think he's all that. I think if you get a lot of rubber on him, and you plan the shots, because we all know that he's vulnerable with his rebound control. You target where you're going to shoot on him, and you get your other forwards on the line to be in the right sort of places. And we did that really well on Saturday night in the first period. We just put a barrage of rubber on him, and he kind of folded. Part of me was surprised that he wasn't pulled for day after the fourth went in, because he was all over the place. In fairness, I know he didn't really have much to do for the remainder of the game because we took the foot off the gas, but he sort of got himself back into it and sort of regained his confidence as the rest of the game played out. But I know we'll talk about it later on in the show for the Sunday game, but the Panthers this year have just not really, I don't think, targeted his vulnerable sort of qualities as much as they could have done, because his rebound control is just generally lousy, and he kicks out pucks all over the place. I don't think he knows quite where he's putting the puck, let alone his defence. So, it was a missed chance. Maybe if we'd come out in that second period on Saturday and you continued in the same vein as we had for the first 20 minutes, we might have been 6 or 7 up by the end of the second period. And that really would have, I think, been game over and Panthers through to the Final Four this weekend. But, we kind of stopped doing the things that we'd been doing so well for the first 20 minutes. So, yeah, it's tinged with regret, really, because I don't think we capitalise really on what makes him, in my opinion, quite a shaky netminder when it comes to dealing with shots.
Sorry, can I just jump in at this point? Sorry, the one thing, I'm not much into the technicals. I've never played the game. I can't even blooming skate. But one thing I did notice, particularly about Mustakos on Saturday. And something we did particularly well. We got in close. If we were able to get in close and create a bit of confusion around the crease, and the rest of the team sort of, if you can make the rest of the team lose sight of the puck as well as Mustakos, that seemed to be the time that we had the most promise, or the most product. I think if he sees it, then chances are he's at least going to get in the way of it. So the sort of shots from out wide, back to the blue line and such, they didn't seem to trouble him too much. Although the rebounds were sort of going off here, there, and everywhere, he was still sort of able to deal with them. And because there weren't Panthers players around the crease, the rest of the Steelers players were able to deal with that. They could handle it, but. Yeah, for me, it just seems that the closer in that our forwards got to the crease, and the more chaos we created around that area, the better we seemed to fare, and the more it seemed to flummox him. So, perhaps it's a sort of a, I don't know, maybe he's long-sighted. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Well, certainly that Robert Farmer goal, it was close in. A rebound straight in the slot, and Farmer's there, bosh. In you go, and that was exactly where we mopped up from him. But at the other end, Mika Viekman and Steelers dominated the second and third periods. I don't think there's any doubt about that on Saturday night. But Mika Viekman, absolutely sensational.
Yep, fantastic when he's on it. He was having one of those games. He was on it, and out of the two goalies, I'd still, if you could get a Weekman performing like that every game, I'd still have him over Moose any day of the week. It's just unfortunately he's had a few injuries, and sort of the lesser games he seems to lose concentration a bit more. I don't know whether that's because he's seen less rubber, but some of those saves were just ridiculous, and it was like you knew full well. I think I messaged you guys. I'd 4-0 up at the end of the first period, and I'm sat there. And although when the goals were going in, I was going nuts. And at the end of the period, I'd, give them a proper round of applause as they went off. But then during the period break, I sort of sat down and recollected, and you go, this is all on Weekman now. Because we knew Sheffield were going to come out, and you just thought that Weekman was going to have to stand on his head. And he did at times. He Sheffield could have been way closer than they had any right to be, based on that first period.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we will leave Saturday night there and the happiness. Now time to go over to Sunday night. So, Ant, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, because I was lucky enough to be avoiding the game. I went out for a family meal instead. So, Panthers taking a 3-goal lead into the second leg. And after the end of the first period, Sheffield with the only goal of the game, Levi Nelson scoring after Ben O'Connor and Gareth Walker on the assists. Second period, and it all went a little bit wrong. A collision, which I'm sure you guys are going to want to talk about shortly, with a Steelers
we don't want to talk about it, but it happened. so it's going to have to go in there.
Yeah, collision with a Steelers forward, left Mika Riekman lying completely out of it on the ice for a good few minutes. Eventually stretchered off to be replaced by Dan Green. A Dan Green that's not started a game this season and has played, 2 or 3 games, I think you said yesterday, Tina?
That was his third, yes.
Yeah. And then Jonathan Phillips makes it 2-0, pulls the deficit back to 1 goal, and then in the third period, Marcus Nilsson and then Robert Dowd put the Steelers in front before that man Chris Lawrence, with a tap-in, with a deflection, sent the Panthers fans into raptures by taking the game into overtime, only for Guillaume Debienne to skate past a static Panthers defence and make it 5-1 and send the Steelers to the playoff finals. Jono, you've not had a chance to sort of comment much so far because you've been doing the presenting, so I'll let you go first. Thoughts on the game overall?
Overall, we just weren't good enough. And it's as simple as that. We didn't have any intensity. We didn't put any quality shots on there. In fact, I was amazed to see that we had 19 shots on goal, because I wouldn't have been surprised if we'd have only had 10. There was one quality effort on goal and it went in, and that was it. We were dreadful in front of goal, and I just think we shouldn't have sat on the lead. I think we should have gone for it. I mean, hindsight being the wonderful thing that it is, and people should remember how good hindsight is. I was at a loss to see why we just didn't try and get some quality rubber on Mustakovs. We know how dodgy he is. We know how many rebounds he gives out. Put him under pressure. Just didn't happen, and I think that's the reason we lost. And yes, there are mitigating circumstances and things happened, but we lost because, for me, we didn't put enough rubber on net, and we just weren't good enough.
I mean, I'll open it up to the three of you. The first goal, I've not been able to bring myself to watch the highlights. Luckily I've been sent a clip of the incident involving Weekman, and I've watched the first goal that was given. Thoughts? Was it in? Was it not in?
It is a big call. It was a big call on the ice because, I mean, you sort of look at, we've had several people taking screenshots of the highlights, and you can see the puck. For me personally, I don't think it's fully crossed the line, but it is damn close. It is absolutely, it is just the closest it could be. Now, the thing that I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam and Jono, but I don't remember the goal judge's light going on.
No, it never went
No,
on.
it never went on.
So the goal judge didn't see it. Now, at the time, I thought it was Smith that was over there, but I'm told now that it was Hicks. So, I mean, regardless, doesn't really matter. But it's, me being pedantic, but the referee has got to be 100% certain that puck has crossed the line. Now, if you look at some of the photos that people have taken screenshots of, the referee, to me, appears to be in a position where Mika Weekman's blocker is obstructing the view that he could have had. So, all that taken into account, it's a big call. Yeah, I mean, I said it. I said it on one of our period break podcasts. I said we need to, get goal line technology in. But on reflection, even the cameras behind the goal probably wouldn't have been able to determine that because Weekman's blocker was in the way. So it's massive. It is a very big and bold call, and it was signalled there and then. There was a little bit of discussion about it afterwards, and I don't remember seeing the referee consulting the goal judge. But I mean, I don't think they have to. It's the referee's call at the end of the day. But yeah, given the view that it looks like the referee has, that's a big call.
Adam?
Yeah, well, pretty much echo everything that Tina's just said there. From where we were in the arena, obviously we don't get a very good look at that. But I do recall very vividly that Hicks was very, very close to the net when the puck was travelling towards the line after it had just been banked off Viekman. And, he was very, very adamant with his gesticulation that the puck had gone in. I was surprised because, well, as we've just said there, the light never went on. The lamp was never lit. And I can't remember any sort of dialogue or discussion between any of the referees, linesmen, and the goal judge. And it comes back to the old argument that we've had before. Should we rely more on goal judges, or are they just window dressing? Do they just sit behind both goals because the rules state that we need to have goal judges at each end? I was just very, very surprised that Hicks could be so certain that he saw the puck go completely over the line, when all the stills and the screenshots that we've seen since show that there's a massive degree of doubt as to whether the puck fully crossed the line or not. I just find Hicks's response incredibly strong and decisive, for something that, even after looking at things repeatedly on stills and frozen shots, I still can't really tell whether the puck crossed the line or not. Like Tina said, it's so incredibly close, and it's a massive call as well because it's towards the end of the first period. If that's not given, we're going at 0-0, and it makes the task even harder for Sheffield. They've got to come out for the second period knowing that there's still quite a few goals to get before they get back on parity with us. So I think the game started to swing there. That the pendulum started to swing back towards Sheffield with that goal being awarded.
And Jono, I mean, having a last-second goal ruled out in the pointless league game on the Friday night the week before, to then having a goal given in pretty much exactly the same sort of circumstances against us, is it a case of Panthers having no luck at all?
I don't think it's a luck thing. I mean, for me, it wasn't a goal because I don't think the whole of the puck crossed the whole of the line. But by the way, it doesn't matter now. It's a pointless argument. I think the blame lies with the Elite League. They've been promising us goal line technology for 2 years, and it's still not happened. I mean, come on, what is going off here? I know the guys who put it in. It's not their fault. It's a hold up at leagues and arenas. Don't tell us that you're going to put something in that would resolve all these issues and then don't do it. Either do it or say, actually, we're scrapping it and we're not having it. Because goal line technology would have sorted that issue out. And there's been a few of them this season. And it really, really annoys me because the technology is there, available to make these calls and to help the officials, and it's not being utilised. And once again, a massive decision has probably gone against us because the technology isn't there. This needs sorting out desperately. I mean, it's available for the playoff finals weekend. Why wasn't it available for the quarterfinals as well? It's absolutely ridiculous. And talking, I mean, while we're talking about videos, there was they put a video up of a challenge on Robert Dowd. It was poor, it was high, nothing was given at the time. It probably would have got a game or match penalty if it had been called. But this is what I'm saying. The technology is there to make these decisions, and it's not being utilised. Get it sorted.
Roll on next season, eh? So the main talking point after that, if that wasn't enough, was obviously the collision between the Steelers forward Armstrong and Mika Viekman, which led Mika being taken off the ice. Tina, I'll start with you. We've had a chance to have a look at the videos a few times now. What are your thoughts?
Well, isn't technology a wonderful thing? We obviously, heat of the moment. You're in an arena. You're in the enemy's territory, and we were all absolutely convinced that it was not a deliberate attempt to injure, but I think at the time we all felt that the contact was deliberate. I don't think anybody ever wanted, I don't want to have to believe at any point that there is any hockey player on this earth that wants to injure another hockey player. I just can't believe that ever wants, that ever exists. But at the time, we were all absolutely convinced. We have been watching for the last two games, sort of attempts to put Mika Viekman off his game, and he handled it really well on Saturday. But obviously on Sunday, that was the result. Now the video, because I'm like you, Ant, I can't bring myself to watch the highlights, so I've seen little bits and bobs here and there, and I have seen a little bit of footage of that particular incident. Now, in fairness to Armstrong, he's not looking. I don't think he's looking at Viekman. He's solely focused on the puck. Now, the problem comes where Viekman's trying to freeze the puck, and Armstrong is leaning on Jeff Dimon, and I think potentially he expected Dimon to just collapse on the floor or something, but he didn't. The problem I have is that I don't think he did enough to avoid the contact with our netminder. I don't think. Again, I don't think that there was intent to injure, but there was no effort made to get out of his way. That's the part I kind of still have a little bit of a problem with, to be honest. But I do want to stress I don't think anybody would have wanted the outcome of what happened there. So it's. I don't know. It's clumsy. It's a hard driving play, and it's a clumsy ending to a sequence of plays. And there's been an awful lot of chatter about why was Viekman left for so long. If you sort of looking from our vantage point, certainly the resulting 10-person melee that is in front of Mika Viekman's goal is in the direct line of the benches and the goal, so they can't see. So I can only assume that the bench, at least our bench, thought that Viekman was involved in that melee. He sort of got up because it's if Viekman's been if he feels there's been unnecessary contact and he's able to, he's in the past he's let people know about it. He's sort of got up and given them a shove himself. So. I think the delayed reaction to that, unfortunately, was because nobody could see it, and everybody's trying to split all these 10 guys up that are wanting each other's blood for what's just happened. So, just to simplify the question, was it deliberate? I think the drive to the net was deliberate. I think not enough was done to avoid the contact. But clumsy and accidental is probably they're probably appropriate words as well.
Adam?
Yeah, I think I've got a fairly similar take to what happened that Tina's just run you through there. There's a bit of a backstory to this, isn't there? Because Mika's had injury problems in the past. We know that. He's not the most sturdy netminder in the world. He's quite fragile. We've seen that. He's spent games, sat in the stands whilst he's had to recuperate from injuries in his time at the Panthers. And I think that, like Tina was saying there, Armstrong comes in, cuts in from the wing, drives the net hard. I think Armstrong is certainly looking for some contact with Wiegman. I don't think, like Tina said, that he's deliberately set out with a view to going to injure the netminder. I think he just wants to, bump him, have a bit of contact there, and just get in his face and rough him up slightly. But obviously, got a lot more than he bargained for, because that as a result of the collision, Mika's been knocked out. And he's landed under Armstrong and Dimmon's contribution as well. Probably created a bit of a perfect storm really, and poor Mika's at the bottom of all of that, and he's laying prone in his goal. As everyone in front of him starts knocking 10 bells out of each other. So I think the words that Tina used there were quite appropriate, clumsy and unfortunate. I think that Sheffield got out of it what they wanted. I don't think they would have wanted to see Mika leave on a stretcher. In fact, I'm fairly certain they wouldn't have wanted to see that, because nobody likes to see hockey players injured, and especially as badly as that. But the cards kind of came out well for them, because they were left to face Dan Green in net for the remainder of the game, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a few minutes. But he's a very rusty netminder, and obviously, what happens history now. So yeah, it's sad to see, and obviously, we hope Mika's okay, and thankfully the Panthers put out a few press releases late last night to say that he'd been discharged from hospital with nothing particularly serious except a headache and a sore and stiff neck, which is great news that it's nothing more serious than that. But yeah, it was a massive game-changing incident, and obviously that goal that was given towards the end of the first period was big, but I think the Armstrong and Mika incident was much bigger, because that really did set in train Sheffield to go on and win that playoff quarter-final tie.
And Jono?
Yeah, I mean, it's accidental, but I think Armstrong could have probably done more to avoid a collision. But it's one of those things. Hockey's a fast game. It's split second, and it was very unfortunate. And I know people have had a go at us for what we said on the podcast we did last night. But hey, emotion.
That's raw emotion.
Yeah, emotion. We'd not seen the video.
We only get one look at it.
And let's face it, Sheffield have got previous for this. As I'm sure Brian Stewart and Ben Bounds will testify. So, and also what happened on Saturday night, where he was bumped into, probably ran, shall we say? So come on. We were going on the evidence in front of us. I, at the time, did think it was deliberate. The video evidence on review, that don't forget, some people have only seen the video evidence. They weren't there at the time, in the middle of it, with all the emotion. Sometimes we get it wrong. We got it wrong. Sue us. Because obviously these people really have perfect lives and never make mistakes, do they? So...
I was quite blunt with my estimation of it, and I wasn't at the game, obviously, and I was quite vocal about it on social media last night. And if I did offend anybody with my language, I'll apologise for. But if I offended anybody over the comments that I made, I don't care. I think, having seen the review of the footage, I think there's a hell of a lot more that Armstrong can do. I think he goes to ground with the intention of making contact with Wiegman, and no, I wouldn't like to think anybody would go to a game, except maybe Kelsey Wilson, with the intent to injure somebody. But there's a hell of a lot more he could have done without that. And at the end of the day, I believe that that has cost us. That has cost us. We don't. Regardless of the fact we probably didn't deserve it, and based on what you guys have said and what other people I know were there, that we definitely didn't deserve to go through, because we were pretty awful for 5 periods. But yeah, that was it. That was huge for me. And even if we'd got through, we'd have been without him this weekend, guaranteed. So it's brilliant news to hear that it was nothing serious. There was no spinal injury and everything. And thanks for the Panthers putting out a pretty clear message about that. It was brilliant. But Jono, is there anything else you wanted to say about Steelers winning with grace?
Well,
or should we move on?
Well, the thing is, let's be honest. In the end, they scored more goals than us. They deserved to go through because we sat back and they took it to us. They're a better team than us. They proved that over the season. So no qualms with that. But you know what? I mean, some of the stuff I've seen on social media today, you've won nothing yet. You've got through to the final. Well done, congratulations. But you've won absolutely nothing yet. So maybe, just maybe, wind it in a little bit. Because, bad losers aren't great, but bad winners are worse. So, wind your necks in a bit. There you go.
Just as a sort of balance to that, I have also seen some truly horrific things from Panthers fans this weekend, and I think a lot of people on both sides need to take a very long, hard look at themselves.
Yeah, and I think one highlighted on Twitter. I'm not going to name the person who says he hoped that they crashed on the way. I mean, that's absolutely disgraceful and pathetic. And frankly, you should delete your social media account and lock yourself in a box for the rest of your life, because quite frankly, the thing is, one thing that this weekend has done, I think it has really reignited a rivalry that 12 other games have killed off. Yeah, but it's been nasty.
It has, but there's either nasty or there's everybody just going, oh, I'm sick of the Panthers, I'm sick of the Steelers. It's just it seems to be one or the other. And
I think you can have a healthy rivalry. You can have a healthy rivalry without needing to resort to extremes. We've seen it in years gone by where the hockey was doing the talking, and that's what got the rivalry built up to a pretty fevered level. And that was pretty much without any sort of pure nastiness. Okay, those times were different. We didn't have social media like we have today. Maybe, if we'd had social media 10, 13, 15 years ago, things might have been different, and there could have been, nastiness back then, or more nastiness back then. But, it's not been pleasant, actually, to look across the world of social media today, because there's been some ridiculous arguments taking place, personal threats and, some quite vitriolic stuff, from both sides. Panthers aren't saints in this regard. Panthers fans aren't saints. There are certain aspects of our fan base that need to maybe think long and hard about what they've contributed to the debate, if you can call it that, over the last 24 hours. But yeah, I just think that people need to think maybe a little bit before they take to Twitter or Facebook or whatever. But there's always going to be raw emotion there. In the heat of the moment, like Jono said and like Tina said, we were very upset last night because we've seen our netminder leave the ice and leave the arena on a stretcher. That is going to bring out emotions, and we are going to feel quite impassioned to really support our team from that point forwards. But I think it did cross the line in a few instances. But those people probably know who they are, hopefully, and will reflect long and hard on their actions, and hopefully won't do that sort of stuff again in the future.
Sadly, I doubt it.
Well, I know maybe it's wishful thinking on my part, but social media gives these people a platform to be quite vitriolic and stir the pot, and unfortunately, a vocal minority kind of taints the sort of actions of the majority, and we don't want to see a rivalry that's just basically underpinned by nastiness and hatred towards one another. Yes, we can hate sort of players on the ice from opposing teams. That's great, but when it comes to hatred between fans, I think that's probably where things just veer out of all sort of control, and it creates an awful atmosphere, for people that just want to go to a game and sort of enjoy the hockey, appreciate a rivalry, but just not get involved in a stupid war of words afterwards.
I think there's a potential slogan of just something that's popped into my head really. I don't know if I remember the Harry Enfield and Friends sketch, the women know your limits. I think we need one. Social media users know your limits. Just have a little think. Count to 10 before you tweet. Sort of effort.
I held my breath when you went, women know your limits, because
don't worry about it. I know what you're all saying about me.
The way things have gone this season with what certain people have said on social media and elsewhere, I was like, oh god, this could be the last one ever. But,
bite your tongue, Johnny. Bite your tongue.
Just a couple of some of the tweets that we've had in, and one I do want to bring up about last night. And Panthers Banter has sent one to us, and we also had another one on the same issue, if I can find it. Yeah, that was from Rubber Puck. So Panthers Banter, he said, obviously we would in hindsight, but if you were Corey, would you have considered resting an import to have Passel as backup? Rubber Puck, he says, baffled as to why we didn't drop an import and have Passel as backup. Saving was more important than scoring on Sunday night. I think hindsight, this is another case of hindsight being a wonderful thing. You don't expect your netminder to get injured halfway through a game, and I think Corey went with exactly the right tactic. I think have all available import skaters that you can, because Sheffield are a good side.
Kenwin's put it really well, because he sort of replied in the middle of all that, and he says, no, need all available out skaters as Steelers are a top skilled quick team, and it's like, you're trying to face 4 good lines with 3.5 if you take a skater out, because there's absolutely no way you can scrimp on defence.
Mm. Well, some of the other tweets that we've had from fans over the past 24 hours, and if you do want to get in touch with us, you can do. It's at Cats Whiskers TV on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. David Spence, he says, an awful capitulation from 4-0 up. No desire or passion show for 5 periods. Poor, not good enough. Glad to see the back of this year's team. Clan Manal, you're going to love this one. He said, Panthers clanned it. Simples. More on that later, I'm sure. Neil L on Twitter, annoyed at our negative dump and puck play style after the first period at the NIC. Gave Sheffield all the momentum to keep attacking us. John Roper, he said, having seen the TV footage of the game now, has your opinion changed? First goal and the incident with Mika. Not on the first goal, and I think we've gone through the Mika incident pretty much in depth and referred to the podcast we did last night, so thanks for that, John. Kenwin, he sent a tweet yesterday. He says, should we be worried that no official or player on the ice nor players on the bench check Weekman immediately after? I think I mentioned that. I mean, I think the melee in front of the net just obscured the view. So
yeah,
I think for me personally, I reckon that they thought that Mika was involved in that. So instead of it being a 10-person melee, I think they thought it was an 11-person melee with one guy having a blocker. So I think they probably thought he was all right.
Yeah.
Okay. As Bates, he says, last night we were horrific. We didn't deserve anything out of the game. We never even looked like creating anything or scoring negative play. Can't really add anything to that, I agree. Elliot Stanley, he says, sound like a broken record, but huge change needed at the NIC. Time for fresh ideas, a new coach, new Britpack, and better import recruitment. I suppose that one's going to come over the summer, but quick thoughts on that one, Ant?
Because new Britpack players that can play in the Elite League grow on trees, don't they? Unfortunately, I think we're a bit stuck in that regard. We'll wait to see. We definitely need a complete tear up of this team. No more of Lawrence and his drinking pals, please. The Britpack, yes, there's a couple of players that are underperforming, but and I think it might be better for them as well if they were to play somewhere new, a new challenge for them.
But where does that leave us?
Exactly.
If we let them go, what's coming in?
Appreciate that, but we are the Nottingham Panthers. You'd think that we'd have a little bit of gravitas if we went to a Brit that was doing well in the EPL and said, look, come and play for us. I know guys in the EPL have got jobs and they're not all fully professional. But let's use our name. Let's use the fact that we are probably the biggest organisation in the British ice hockey and try and tempt young Brits to come to the Panthers rather than just saying season after season, oh, let's go with the same Brit pack again. Ollie Betteridge went away to Swindon. He did in the world of good. And he's come back and he's probably been one of the few bright spots this season. But guys like Lakovic, he's going backwards every season. He goes backwards more and more and more. And I'm thinking to myself, what is he doing in the team? What sort of role other than penalty killing is he sort of fulfilling? You can get a young Brit out of the EPL, surely, and get him to concentrate on being a penalty killer and pay him a considerable amount less probably than Lakovic. So, I just think that we need to stop being as loyal to certain players as we are, because that is possibly one of the sort of reasons why we find ourselves having this mass inquest as to ripping up this team, which I totally agree with. This team, for the most part this season, have stunk. They've been possibly the dourest, most negative roster I can remember us putting out to play ice hockey. And, massive changes are needed. But, I don't think you can say that the Brit pack should be, protected by some sort of vacuum or bubble, because, at the end of the day, it needs to be a meritocracy. You can't just say, oh, well, because Lakovic is a Brit or because Steve Lee's a Brit, we need to hang on to him come what may. Because that just means that they get almost, they are complacent. The way they played this season, shows me, and I suspect a fair few other fans as well, that they're complacent. They know they've got effectively a contract for as long as they're able to or want to at the Panthers. And I think that is wrong. I think that is totally wrong, because it just means that we're not getting the best from Brits. And if it means getting rid of the Brits, so be it. Because you have to do right by the team. You can't do right by individuals. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm sure many others differ with that. But, I think that you need to look at the roster long and hard and say, what does this guy bring to the party? And if he doesn't bring what you need him to bring, then you have to discard and say thanks, but, we want to make an upgrade. We need to get a better player in this position. Brits or imports for that. So I don't think that the Brits can be insulated from that, in my opinion.
I mean, that was brilliant. I mean, you've summed up pretty much exactly what I think, Adam. But the one thing I'll point out: where's the next who's the next Ollie Betteridge? Or when we had Stevie Lee and well, no, I know we poached Lee from Hull, but where's the next Lacko? Because we've had nobody since we were in the Champions League last time, and we had Cowney
and Betteridge.
Yeah. But I don't think the club have actively been looking, because they effectively go into every new season saying, right, we've got the same Brits that we had last season.
And the import levels increased as well.
Yeah. And I just think that we need to be more critical. And, obviously fans can be critical, but, those that are actually in a position to do something about player contracts and whether they stay from season to season, they need to be a bit more critical. I'm looking at the coaching staff here, because, guys shouldn't be along for a free ride. They've got to contribute. And, if it means saying to, again, I'm going to pick on him, but just for example's sake, Rob Lakovic, thanks, Rob. You've given us several years of really great service. You've won pretty much everything with us. We think that you need a new challenge in your career, because it is plain to see for me that he does. He's treading water. He needs to, and we might need to go and look at, Brits in the EPL. And I don't know what sort of scouting we do, because, if we think that we're going to run with the same Brits year in, year out, then obviously, we're not paying much attention to what's going on in the EPL and looking at, where the next Steve Lee's coming from or the next Rob Lakovic from, 4 or 5 years ago is coming from. Because, it's just not at the top of the coach's agenda.
I mean, also, weren't we promised a shake-up in our Brit pack at the start of this season? And then what happened? Matthew Myers went back to Cardiff, and that were it.
No,
we signed exactly the same other. And now, probably one of the main losses of the season. We lost Oakford down to the EPL again.
Yeah. I mean, that's unfortunate, because obviously that was unforeseen. But you're right, it wasn't much of a shake-up, was it? And it kind of comes back to something we've talked about previously about Panthers and youth hockey and junior hockey. We need to have a better pathway through for young guys that are playing out of some of the junior teams in Nottingham to make it up to the Panthers, because from what I see, there's just a massive sort of block between the junior organisations and the senior team.
Can I just jump in at that point? Because I, from what I understand, Corey Nielsen has offered his services in terms of working with the junior teams, and there's just there's either too much red tape or there is too much opposition coming from the junior teams. And so basically, he just got fed up of asking.
Well, somebody needs to come in and knock heads together then, because
if they don't want to work with the Panthers, then they don't have to. But it does present a bit of a question mark as to the development of the junior teams. This is this is
well, why do we have
top
them?
levels? It's the top level
because all we're doing is we're developing players for other teams.
This is the top level senior team, and they are working. They train and play out of the same arena as the Lions and all the junior teams that come down from that. And the thing that makes me a little bit sad is when I first started watching, which admittedly is not so long ago. That was when Lakovic had just come back from Manchester Phoenix, from working with Tony Hand, and Josh Ward was playing, and I think there were various others whose names escape me, but it was like, we've got these young, excited Brits, that they're going to be the next big thing. I mean, admittedly, Josh Ward is now flying planes, but you can't have it always. But you could see. You could see that we had, there was a bit of future proofing for us. There was a bit of planning for for what's coming next. For when David Clark retires, when Matthew Myers goes back to Wales, and and such things like that. And Ollie Bettridge, he's the one example that's come up from that. I mean, I can remember Ollie playing, I think it was something like 2 days after his 16th birthday. And I think as I recall, he nearly scored. he nearly scored. He got in a position to score at his debut, and it was quite amusing. But yeah, and then you've mentioned, like Hook and Cowney, who, did a fantastic job for us against Hamburg in the CHL. I mean, there's got to be talent out there, but the thing is, I think part of the problem, and this is, oh God, aren't we going off into a tangent now? I think this is what's under Richard Grieveson's remit. He is trying to get all the leagues to talk to each other again, and I think if he can do a job like that, then maybe we'll have some sort of links between the various tiers of hockey. But I think it's a very long road. It's a very long road, and I think we're going to be talking about this for a very long time.
It will take years, but it's no less an ambition because of that, because it has to be done now. And if it takes 10 years, it takes 10 years, but it has to happen.
Yeah, it does, absolutely.
Okay, we've had a couple of tweets in from Geraldine Ellis and Peter Cowan. I think we'll save them till Ask TCW on Wednesday, if that's okay, guys, and we'll put them to the panel on that one because we're nearly at an hour already, and we've still got quite a bit to go through. So we will move on. Thank you very much for everyone who's contributed, who sent in tweets, and also who listened to our live podcast from the Sheffield Arena yesterday, which was over 1,800 of you, so that was phenomenal. Thank you very much.
Yes, our live, very raw and emotional podcast.
Yes.
And my extremely sore throat.
It doesn't sound much better, mate, to be fair. So, yes, thank you for interacting with us. Keep the tweets coming in if you want to throughout the show. We know that we've got quite a few people listening to us tonight, so thank you very much for that. We will carry on, and with the news that the Nottingham Panthers Supporters Trust was passed with a unanimous vote last Thursday. Tina, Adam, you were both at the meeting, so just very quick thoughts on that, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of what I expected it to be. Obviously we were told what Supporters Trust entails, more about the organisation and the administrative side of things. and there were people obviously there to give examples from elsewhere, and I find it quite interesting. I think that the aims are definitely laudable, and the objective to try and foster greater links and a relationship with the major decision makers at the club is to be supported for reasons that we've discussed at considerable length previously on these podcasts. Ultimately the vote was unanimous, and obviously now I think that the next step is to ratify that and elect people to particular positions. So it'll be very interesting to see how it all pans out. We can't lose sight of the fact that I think the whole ethos of the Supporters Trust is to try and get more fan representation when it comes to making decisions at the club. Something that I have been banging on about and being quite vocal about for many years now, because I think there's a real divide that's grown massively this year between the top echelons of the club and the what you call the ordinary normal fan base, without wanting to be too disparaging to ourselves. Exciting times, I guess, for the Supporters Trust, and I wish them all the very best.
Tina?
Yeah, I wish the trust the best of luck. The only thing that really concerns me is that prior to the meeting, I apologise to Rob and the rest of the members of the trust if I have grabbed this from somewhere and misunderstood, but I was under the impression that there would be some sort of legal ramifications from the Supporters Trust forming. Now, I actually asked the question about that and said, is it going to be a legal requirement that the club will have to meet with the trust? And the lady from the trust, I forget her name. I do apologise for that. She says no. Now that is a law that's a legal requirement within the Football Association. This anything that is set up from this particular Supporters Trust, this is going to be setting the precedent, because there's no legal precedent. There's no Supporters Trust precedent. It would appear for ice hockey. This is the first, so in a way it's very good. It's good because this is going to be the benchmark by what any other Supporters Trusts within British ice hockey follow. But the fact that there is no legal requirement for the club to meet with the Supporters Trust, that worries me a little bit, because I don't think that. I mean, it's kind of like the company that I work for. They won't recognise a union, and by that sort of, I don't know, if you sort of transfer that, the club don't have to recognise the trust. It would be nice if they would, because there are a lot of good people who want to, who want to improve the club. We're not. There's a lot of people. We just want the best for our hockey club, and we're seeing things that we don't like, and we're seeing things that could be improved. And I mean, us on this podcast, we know that we send emails and we get no response. So I hope for the trust that they get a better response than we do.
Okay, and anything to add?
No, everybody's covered it perfectly.
Okay, fine. We shall move on then to the rest of the playoff quarterfinals that took place over the weekend. So Belfast Giants against the Fife Flyers. Giants winning in Belfast 4-2 on Saturday night, and then in Kirkcaldy on Sunday night winning 4-1 for an 8-3 aggregate victory. So Belfast will play Sheffield in the second semi-final playoff weekend this weekend. Champions Cardiff Devils faced 8th seed Manchester Storm. A 3-2 victory at Ice Arena Wales on Saturday night, followed by a 3-1 victory in Altrincham on Sunday for a 6-3 aggregate victory. They will be in the first semi-final against the Dundee Stars, who had a 3-1 victory against the Braehead Clan on Saturday night, and then in Braehead a 3-0 victory to take an excellent 6-1 aggregate victory. They will face the Devils in the 1pm face-off first semi-final on Saturday. News coming from that Dundee Braehead clash, though, is that Ryan Finnerty has been sacked as Clan head coach after 4 seasons at the helm. And was that a surprise?
Not at all. I think on the preview show we pointed it as, out of the 2 games we fancied, a bit of an upset was the Fife and the Dundee one, and by all accounts, Clan Panthers did it up.
Yeah.
to go on the tweet from here.
Panthers may have planned it up, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Tina, you're surprised or not?
No, not really. I think, I mean, it's the other Neil Black team, isn't it? So you would kind of expect that they have comparable, resources at their disposal. They're regularly filling out their building, and given what you would imagine they do have available to them, they do have at their disposal. You would have expected them to do better in their last, in their last few, in their initial seasons. Just generally speaking. Not really a surprise for me. I think one thing that's really gone against them is being in the Gardner Conference, and everybody every year. Oh, it's the Clans to lose. As soon as the conferences came in, Clan are going to win. Clan are going to win every year, and I think it just immediately puts the pressure on them every year. So, yeah, I think they have performed below expectations, but I don't think that's entirely their fault. But no surprise that they have sacked their head coach.
Okay. Adam?
No surprise from me. I think they've been sort of going backwards a bit this season. There are high expectations there. I think Tina alluded to the fact that they sell out the building most weeks. I think I've noted, certainly from following a few Clan fans this season, that there's been quite a bit of discontent amongst the fan base at what they've been seeing. And I don't know whether that might have been appeased slightly if they managed to overcome Dundee and then have a good weekend on this Saturday and Sunday coming up. But I suspect it was probably right for all parties concerned that there was a change made at that organisation, and it'd be very interesting to see who Mr. Black appoints as the next coach of the Clan.
Riley Emerson is the early favourite, I think. There's been a lot of whispers I've seen since the news was announced that Riley will be heading back to the Elite League, to the Clan. I mean, a good bloke is Riley, and I think he'd probably fit in quite well there.
Well, he did pretty well when he with the limited resources that he had at Edinburgh. He's quite a level-headed guy, and I think he would be going into there with a lot less expectation than Ryan Finnerty. So I think that would instantly make his job a little bit easier. I mean, expectations are high at the Clan anyway, but I think the pressure would be slightly less for Riley coming in than there were for Finnerty going in. Him having come from Sheffield, to going into the Clan as he did. I don't think it would be a bad appointment, to be honest. He knows the league. He would know some of the players, and from the kind of players that he was bringing in at Edinburgh, he obviously has some good contacts. So it's an interesting one to keep watching. That one, I think.
On a personal note, I like Finner. He's a good bloke. He's always been good to us on this podcast, giving us interviews and such like. So, want to wish him all the very best for the future. Okay, we're going to finish off by looking ahead to the playoff finals weekend, which of course take place this weekend at the NIC, with the semi-finals on Saturday and the final on Sunday. The semi-finals, as we've already said, Cardiff against Dundee, 1 p.m. on Saturday. Belfast against Sheffield, 5 p.m. on Saturday. I suppose the question that we need to ask is, do we really care?
I'm more bothered about what beers Nicky's going to have on at the bunkers.
Hey, do you know what? After the tweets I was getting at the weekend, I'm more concerned about the fact that that Phil's alluding to the fact that there's going to be no vanilla vodka in there. How dare they scare me like that? How dare they scare me like that? I don't know how they dare.
Anything for the hockey? You've all paid money
the
for
hockey. I forgot about that.
I hope there are 3 very hard fought, very clean, very exciting games. Obviously, nobody gives the monkeys about the 3rd, 4th place game because any players involved in that will probably be hungover anyway. But the 3 games that matter, I just hope it's a good weekend for the fans turning out because most of them are travelling a blooming long way to be there.
Yeah. To sound cliched and cheesy, I hope hockey is the winner.
But I think Dundee, their first playoff weekend.
Yeah.
Could they pull off the shock? I mean, they've got this far, so
yeah,
they've got 2 games.
Well,
sorry, I'm sorry.
Stranger
Dundee,
things have happened in sport.
Well, they are the Coventry of this year's playoffs, aren't they?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how Mark Lefevre would take that.
only in the sense that they've snuck in almost from the bottom, and if they pulled it off, it'd be quite exciting. But it's a big ask, I think.
Belfast and Sheffield. That's probably the big semi-final at 5 p.m. Can you call a winner from that, or do you just
not a chance?
Do you just want both of them to lose? That's which would be the ideal result for me.
No, you know what? In all seriousness, I hope it's a bloody good game. I've got friends on both sides on that one, and I just hope they enjoy the weekend because it's so much better when you're involved. It's going to be heartbreaking for us not to be there. I seriously don't know if I can bring myself to even watch that game. I might end up spending more money at Nicky's establishment instead. But, I always look forward to the weekend, and the one thing, yes, we're not involved. That means no stress. Let's go out and have a party because nobody parties like the playoff people party.
Might be difficult with jet lag, but because have fun, guys. Enjoy it. I suppose the only thing left is to pick a winner. So, Adam,
Cardiff.
Tina?
I don't know. Go on. Happy Grand Slam, Cardiff.
The licensees at the local establishment.
and seriously?
I'm going to go Belfast.
Belfast. I will go Sheffield because it's what they do. Yeah.
Pee you off.
Well, look, I'm going to be 8,000 miles away, so to be honest, it'll be the middle of the night when it's where I am, so I'm probably not.
You can listen to it on Radio 5 Live.
Of course, yes, coverage on BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra with Seth Bennett. As of yet, no TV or webcast coverage announced, but that may change in this upcoming week. And that's it for this season, really. We've got Ask TCW to come on Wednesday, so as usual, please get your questions into us at Whiskers TV on Twitter, hashtag AskTCW, our dedicated thread on the Cage Forum, email tcwonlinetv@gmail.com, or the various Panthers groups on Facebook, or the TCW Facebook group. We would love to get your questions for that, because that will also be the final TCW podcast of the season. Obviously no podcasts next week because we're not taking part in the Final Four next weekend, but we will.
To be fair, we did our end of season podcast after we won the Continental Cup in January. That's when our season finished.
Yeah, well said.
Oh, what a great joke! That's great. Fantastic, nice one, Anne. But we will have a end of season review sometime in the next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I won't be involved because I'm off to South Korea on Thursday to help cover the.
Are you really, John? No, you hadn't mentioned it.
I haven't mentioned it. No, to cover the Sledge Hockey World Championships for a couple of weeks, so I won't be.
Have a great time, mate. Fantastic country.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Actually, I'm really looking forward to going to the new arena where the Olympics is taking place as well. So, but I'm going to miss my little girl for a couple of weeks. That's going to be hard. But I will be. I should be around on Wednesday for Ask TCW, and then that's me done.
yeah. Thanks for that.
Yeah. It's all Tina's baby from there. But we will be having regular podcasts throughout the summer, once a month, or when any important news happens that we need to discuss. But all that remains to be said is thank you very, very much for listening in such fantastic numbers throughout the season. We couldn't have a show without you listening to us and contributing and getting in touch with us. So thank you so very, very much for...
Well, we could, but it'd be pretty pointless.
So thank you very much to you. Also, many thanks to Paul, Aaron and Andy, who, of course, aren't available this evening, unfortunately, but many, many thanks to them for their contributions throughout the season as well. And to everyone who's interviewed for us and just taking the time to be part of the podcast. Thank you very, very much. So, as I said, we will be back on Wednesday for Ask TCW. All that remains to say is thank you very much to Adam Reddish.
Thanks, Jono. Thanks, everybody. Cheers for listening.
Thanks very much to Antoine Marie-Jeanne.
I echo what Adam said. Take care and enjoy your playoff weekend.
And finally, thank you very much to Tina Taylor.
TTFN.
We will be back on Wednesday with Ask TCW. Thanks very much for listening, but until then, ta-ra!